I'm glad to see everyone here this afternoon. This is our roundtable to discuss the impact of racism on just the American society, on the plant-based movement. And this is really going to be an informal discussion, and we're going to encourage input from the attendees and questions, input, comments. This is free form, so let's get started. Why don't we start with comments from the panel about what they think that they hope to see accomplished by this short roundtable discussion.
Start.
How fortunate am I, right? All right, so this doesn't go out. So I'm Helene. I'm the organizer of Triangle Vegfest. I gotta stand. Can I stand, Howie? Okay. I'm the organizer of Triangle Vegfest, and Milton and I had a conversation yesterday for about 30 minutes at the Durham Arts Council, and it encompassed what we're going to talk about today. And I said, do you have a platform for talking about this? To go backwards from there, to preface that, I'm friends with Milton on Facebook. You want to be friends with him on Facebook. He posts some really, really great stuff. So it was something that happened at an event over the summer that I wanted to talk to him about, because I actually told him that he could come here and he can make people squirm in their seats to talk about things that we need to talk about in our society. And we talked about it for 30 minutes, about racism, the impact on the environment, the impact on people, the impact on animals, you know, what's going on in political stages in our country. And I said, you know, he's an MD, and he talks about that. He talked about why you don't need dairy in your diet yesterday. But we need to talk about racism and where our vote is and what we're going to do when the next election comes, and how what's happened the last 3 years has impacted the environment and has impacted people. And boy, he gets really passionate about it, as I am. And I can't wait for him to start talking, because he was up and he was cursing. So we really, and that's why I said, let's do it. I'm going to give you the platform. At every event that I have, I will give him a platform to not just talk about doctors. We have to talk about this. And he's a perfect person to do that. And then he went and talked to everybody else and said, yeah, you should come. You should come. You should be part of the panel. So that's where we're at. And that's why we're here, because within 30 minutes I said, let's do it tomorrow. And look, in one post on Facebook and Instagram, you're all sitting here and knew about it. That's what we're doing. And next is Korin.
It's not working?
We're recording.
Oh, it's recording? Oh.
Pay no attention to it. It's as if it wasn't here.
All right, everyone. My name's Korin Sutton. I'm a 3-time pro bodybuilder, also an online fitness coach. And I hope what we accomplished today is just have better awareness when it comes to our decisions, when it comes to everything that we do, when it comes to the foods that we choose, the people that we, like she said, like who we vote for, not just presidents and stuff like that, but also like your congressmen and stuff like that. I'm speaking like it's a microphone, okay? And I just want to make sure that everyone just has a better conscious mind and just understanding when it comes to these things, because it does make an impact. Even how we spend our money and where we go to, you know, really makes an impact as well. So I just hope that after this panel, I mean, we'll all walk out of here just more connected and on the same like-minded path, so we can just do better decisions to help us do better for everyone, for veganism, for animals, for the environment, and for each other.
Okay. Hey, I'm Howard Jacobson. I'm here because Milton asked me to be here. I want to be here to learn. I think, you know, you'll talk about the dietary thing. I'll say more a little bit later. I'm here to learn and get woke up more.
Well, actually, Howard is one of the most woke people that I know, but and I'm sure he'll have more to say in a minute. But as Helene alluded to, there were a couple of things that brought me to this moment. One of which was I was at a vegan event over the summer, and I made a presentation where I talked about how we and many in the vegan movement justifiably are angry and upset when we see animals confined to cages, baby calves taken away from their mothers, and then I made the statement that I am equally appalled when I see children torn away from their families and placed in cages at our southern border. And I was later admonished by the conference organizers that it was not appropriate for me to make political statements from the podium. And while I understand their concerns, and while in general I do agree that it is not appropriate to use a podium as a platform to pursue one's personal political beliefs, this was not political. This was an issue of right and wrong and justice. And you cannot ask me, particularly as a person of color, to be concerned about a baby calf being torn away from its mother, but not to give a damn about a child being taken away from its family. And so one of the things that we have to do is we have to understand that part of enlarging the borders of veganism is enlarging the agenda of veganism, enlarging the mindset, and realizing that we have to take in views that may not be a traditional part of the way people have of looking at the world. And then this brought up some discussions that I had with people around the 2016 election, because I had participated in the Orlando Vegfest for 3 years running, and I'd stayed with some ostensibly very good vegan people who, after the 2016 election, told me that they voted for Jill Stein. And I'm sorry, are there any children in here? Cover their ears, because I'm like, what the fuck? What do you mean when we had an election where there was a Nazi running who made it clear he hates people of color, he hates LGBTQ people, he hates anyone who is not white and privileged? How the hell could you throw away your vote on someone who had no chance of winning, knowing what it meant to a person of color like me? Your white ass is sitting up here in the suburbs and you're going to be fine. It doesn't matter to you who's in the White House, because whoever's in the White House, you're white, you're wealthy, you're going to be fine. I'm the one that's at risk. And what kind of a conscience allows you to put my life at risk knowing that, I could be killed? So again, we as vegans have to take a broader view. And I think if anybody had any question about that, that question has been answered many times over when we look at what has happened to our environment, what this administration is doing to animals in terms of declaring open season with respect to hunting, to bringing in trophies of endangered animals from Africa, of trashing the Endangered Species Act. The fact of the matter is that if we didn't know before, it should be clear to everyone now that we are all in the same damn boat. And we either rise together or we're all going down together. And so we've got to understand that, and we've got to understand the importance of intersectionality, and that, hatred is malignant. It may start off focused on a particular group or a particular other, but the fact of the matter is that like all malignancies, it eventually spreads and it attacks everyone. And that's why it's a danger to everyone.
So I'm sorry I'm eating in front of you, but I'm hungry. So, and this is Gangster Vegan Organics. Seriously, go get Gangster Vegan Organics and convince him to open one here because he's close. Might happen. So, Bill and I also talked about, because I said, I'm female, I'm Jewish. They're not just coming for him, they're coming for us too. Because they're not pro-Jews. I'm liberal, I run an event that's inclusive for everybody. And that's what our conversation was. I was like, I would never throw my vote away. I'll tell you my story. I learned how to vote from my dad. My dad was a Republican. I went into the voting booth in New York when I was like really young. I would go in and I looked up and my dad voted. He went to Republican, he went click, 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 click. So in New York I had the clickers and you open the thing. I went and voted first time and I went Democrat, click, 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 click. And that's how I voted. Because that wasn't this, I knew when I finally got old enough to vote, I aligned more with those values. I mean, it'd be weird to have a vegan running a veg fest and be like Republican, right? Wouldn't that be weird? So it could happen because there are Republican vegans. There's one here I know of. So he's a good guy. He gets it. He's been blocked by other Republicans on Facebook because he said I voted for Trump and I was wrong. Yes, and he's bought a shirt 2 years in a row. He loves the event. So it's out there. I mean, it's on Facebook, Vegans for Trump. So whatever it is, I don't have a problem making people squirm. I'm pretty vocal, and if you're friends with me on Facebook, my personal page, I say whatever I want. VegFest, I don't do that because it's my nonprofit sometimes, but these are my values. We have to fight for the animals. We have to fight for people. And one of the ways we need to do that is get who's in the White House out of the White House. Because every time I do social media marketing, and I'm on this all the time, and I can't handle what comes up in my feed or on CNN anymore. It doesn't stop. We talked about the environment. I sent over, there was a thing in Portland, Oregon last night where left and right clashed. In Oregon, Portland's like the most liberal city out there. And there were more of the liberal side than the alt-right side, but there was an alt-right thing in Portland, Oregon yesterday. And then the prairie dogs in a suburb in Denver have a disease that closed down a suburb. That's climate change. It has to be. So when does that happen? And there is such a thing as climate change. It's going to be 90 degrees in October, folks. And it doesn't rain. How much has it rained here this year? Things are changing. I've been here 8 years. It has gotten hotter every year. It's rained less every year. And it gets hot. It's hot until much later. I mean, it's been warm here in the fall, but it's 85 degrees in the fall now. It's very different. And that's 8 years of North Carolina. So I'm from New York, which has had wacky, wacky, wacky weather. So we have to care about all humans. Veganism is not just about the animals. It's not just about the animals. And I know there's vegans out there that make it just about the animals. I know there's vegans out there who are white supremacists. It's in our community. And it's really awkward when the rest of the world, like literally the rest of the country, is writing on Facebook about stuff that's been posted by people who actually live in our community. And I feel bad because there are people, I know the parents of the people that are posting things that are really freaking weird, like unexpectedly weird and harsh and odd and mean towards humans. But the animals will protect every single one of them. We can't do that because we all matter. We all have to look out for one another. I mean, you know what? I want to write a shirt, and it's bad. It's going to be sorry for the kids. I want to create a shirt that says, "Don't be a dick." Say it all the time. I can't. I'm a family event. But I mean, I don't know if it would sell, but just don't be a dick. It's that simple in this world. It's that simple. Just live by that motto, and we'll all be good. And get massages. That helps too.
I actually have a question for Dr. Mills. Like when you said throw away the votes, So from my understanding, when people vote for, like, let's say a liberal, that because you said that, like, for Jill Stein, she didn't have any chance of winning. From my understanding, it was like, from what I was told, it's like if you vote someone for, even though they're not going to win, it's not about the win. It's more about the funding for the next campaign. Like that's from what I've understood. Like, what's your thought about that?
In the discussions that I had after that election, it was really mainly about, quote unquote, voting. People said, I felt like I had to vote my conscience. And what the comments that I heard from people were, I'm tired of compromising. I'm tired of having to vote for people who I don't fully believe in, who don't stand for everything that I think is important. And I'm like, join the flippin' club. Black people have had to compromise since we've been in this damn country. I don't think we have ever had the privilege of voting for someone who was everything we wanted. We are usually voting against somebody else. We've got to learn to be strategic, because what did voting for Jill Stein get us? I actually did the calculations. In the swing states that gave Trump the electoral victory, Jill Stein drew off just enough votes to give that bastard the win. If she had not been there, Hillary would have won. Was Hillary perfect? Hell no. But she was a damn sight better than this son of a bitch. Okay? We would not have had children dying in cages at our border. We would not have families being ripped apart. We would not have the environmental protections that have been put in place over generations being rolled back. We wouldn't have the Endangered Species Act going down. And God knows women would not be in danger of looking at fucking coat hangers again. Okay? We're about to lose Roe versus Wade. I mean, I know the women in here know what that means. I mean, this is for real. And it's going to have consequences for generations. These Republicans are doing everything they can to swamp the courts with Nazis. These people are Nazis, and they're young Nazis. So, I mean, we can't be stupid. The hell with your conscience. Your conscience can kiss my black ass. I need you to vote like you got some common sense. And take the broader view. I'm not in love with the Clintons, but I have enough sense to know that I got to take the long view. The fact of the matter is that if the sky opens up and we start to get invaded by invaders who want to kill all human beings, I'm going to fight next to the man in the Klan robe, because we got more in common than I got in common with that than the person that's trying to kill me. I'm going to be strategic, and we need to be strategic.
So I have a question as a white guy, right? So you called me woke, and I think the reason you called me woke is that I said to you, and the backdrop is I saw your video that was just posted, brilliant.
That wasn't just that. It's because I'm looking for
well, but I'll just do the take. Like, okay. You looked at the panel, the nutritional guidelines panel for 2020, and is there a way to get the children somewhere where they could be happier and we could hear it? Yeah, sorry. I like children. I just.
He's got a couple.
Yeah. I get. And basically, it was a panel of white men, right? A couple of women. So a panel of white people. And Dr. Mills is calling out the racism of the nutritional guidelines that say that everyone should eat dairy when most people of color have high degrees of lactose intolerance genetically. And not only did he call out the racism of the policy, but he called out the racism of the makeup of the panel. And what I thought was, had that been me standing there, I would have just seen a normal group of people. I wouldn't have gone, oh, where are all the people of color? And so like, oh, like, boom, there's a learning. And so like for me as a white person, the most woke thing I can do is to recognize, you've broken the ice, how fucking racist I am based on everything that I've learned, everything I've been taught. So what I really want to know is like, how do I be an ally? Not to like, you know, go preach to the black community and tell them about things, but, you know, to like the, you know, the grower I am people. Like, I have a community of people. What can I do to share the wokeness that I get from being exposed to people like you and your takedowns of power, right? How do I bring that into my community to wake us up to the fact that 15 white people on a panel is not America?
So that's a good question. How do we make conscious, concerned white Americans better allies? Let's throw that out to the audience. And that's for anybody, white, black, you name it. Yes.
Advocacy, fighting on behalf or speaking on behalf of things that are going to move. In my opinion, reparations is an ultimate fix to the main issue that's plaguing the native black people. And that's the only way to make it right. That's the only way for the gap to be bridged. Outside of that, everything is just putting a Band-Aid on a wound that's gushing with blood. So that's the first step. That's the only opportunity that's going to allow people to be able to come to the table and have an equal voice and have an equal opportunity to present their opinion and participate in things. Because there are many people that don't come to events like this because they're working. You know, they're not in position to be off on a Sunday afternoon because they're working. They're committed to their family and the priorities that are close to them, but they don't have jobs or the leisure to be able to participate in things like this. So that's part of I think what the doctor's saying is that by being able to participate, then you're going to be able to hear more of a voice.
So to advocate for things that might feel really foreign to white people, something like reparations, especially a white person from the South, right? Like, I was born and raised in the South, and I don't have all I can say about racism is that I did it for a very long time in my life. That's what I grew up with. The person in my life that I looked up to the most was the most racist man I know. And it's scary to talk about because I don't want you to hate him. You know? And so all I can say is that it changes in people. And I think it's as weird as it sounds, it's the food, man. It's the food. I completely flipped 180 in my life. So a big first step is you're already doing, Howie. You know, eating the plant-based message, on beating you the drum, I think. You know, that's all I'm at a loss at how to help without being in the way, right? And I think by really controlling my vessel and owning my past and making sure that I do something different and do it out loud, even though it makes me look really different among my people. I get a funny eye, you know, when I wear a Nike shirt during all of that was going on. When the guy, and I don't know if y'all know about it, in Louisiana, one of the mayors of a town called Kenner said no more Nike stuff after the Kaepernick thing, right? Outlawed Nike. We're not buying Nike equipment for nobody. So around where I'm from, to wear Nike was a sign of protest for a while, for real. And I would get dirty looks, and I wore it on purpose all the time. And I would go to my gym, and my wife wears Bernie shirts, and and we are comfortable making ourselves uncomfortable amongst our own. And I think when you speak to your own folks, I think that's the best way to move it forward. That's what I learned from Eugene Cook at Grow Where You Are, was like, yeah, don't come and try to help the black community get better. You need to help your people get better, man.
Josh, that's huge, man. I mean, that is absolutely huge, because the fact is that as a white person, you can do more within the white community that I can't, because people will always shut down as soon as they see me, because they're like, well, of course he's going to say that, he's black. But when you step up and you're willing to be uncomfortable enough to take that stance, man, that speaks volumes. And we definitely need that. We need white people who are willing to say, you know what, I'm willing to be uncomfortable. I'm willing to tell Uncle Bob that he's full of shit.
I got Uncle Bob, and Uncle Bob is 100% full of shit. And I tell you, going plant-based in a very, think about South Louisiana, going plant-based in that environment, it put me out. And so I was all right with being out over something else that was right to do.
So I'm going to tell you a story about the progression of Vegfest and the speakers. It was, I think, 2016, and we had the big event in the McKimmon Center. We had multiple speakers in multiple rooms. Our community is just not large enough to have that many speakers going at once. It was like 8 in here and like 10 in there. So I learned, okay, we can't do that here, but I'll just stick with 1 in a room. But I got a message from somebody in our community on Facebook. And I was 2 weeks before the next Veg Fest, so I'm really busy. And I was in the zone, doing stuff, and I get this message: you need to have more diversity at your event. And I'm thinking, and this is honest truth, but there's so many different topics. I don't understand. And I approached it like that. I got defensive, and I was like, I don't understand what you're talking about. There's this and there's that, and we can't. And it was back and forth, and it got heated, and we didn't actually talk for a few years. But towards the middle end, I went, oh, she's talking about skin color. Oh, okay. And since then, the panels and the speakers have completely changed. Everywhere I do an event, it's completely changed. Now, I went to Wilmington, I brought Gray, Dr. Judy, Korin. Who else was there? Oh, and Chef Nikki to Wilmington. They spoke to a room of white people. I mean, it really did. Chef Nikki in the mix, yes. It was fantastic. Gray is amazing. Bringing him here next year. Gray's coming next year. He will be speaking because he'll talk about food deserts. He's going to talk about everything. Oops, someone's calling me. Hopefully it's not important. So it's probably about the event. But I didn't know. I didn't know that they were going to speak to a room of white people at the event. And I looked around. You noticed, right? I was like, where are they? And I figured out we have to bus them in from Duplin County because they can't afford to come to the event because they're living where the pigs live, where there's more pigs that live there, and they're the ones that need the education. So we actually have to figure out. So somebody was like, do a Veg Fest in Duplin County. Oh, that would be weird. So, but then I learned that UNC Wilmington is 98% white. Who knew? Now, something Howie said to me yesterday, I had noticed already, but when he came up, he confirmed what I was already feeling. Do you want to say what it was? Do you remember? About the diversity? You want me to do it? Yeah, he came up to me and he goes, this is a really diverse event. And he wasn't talking about the speakers. They're really diverse. But he was talking about the community that attended the event, and it looked like and represented Durham and the Triangle area. And I noticed it earlier in the day, and I was like, yesterday was probably one of my favorite days of doing Veg Fest in 6 years because it was so good. They're so good. I'll bring them everywhere. But it was really community-wise. Even in the speaker rooms, the Q&A was like a support system. Every time I was in there, people were like, oh, you should do this, and we'll help you with that. And I wasn't in there a lot, but every time, it was like that. And that's you. That's our community. We need to hold on to that because we've got a lot of fraction now, more so than 7 years ago. There's a lot more fraction in our community. We need to do more of what yesterday was, and I'll keep doing it as long as you'll keep coming. That's what it is. I will keep bringing education days. I'll keep doing all our events for as long as the community wants it, because this is home. This is home for me. So I'm so proud. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's a danger for people like me to feel like the white savior. Like, oh, I learned all this stuff, and I went to the fruit festivals, and I got to teach all the other people who, like, you walk through Costco or Walmart and you see people of all colors and what they put in their carts, but it's like, well, I'm upper middle class and I've got to teach people. And one of the things that I've been doing this year is consciously trying to learn from communities, not vegan at all, not plant-based at all, but communities that have things to teach me that I have been separate from. So I don't know if anybody went to the North Star Church last week. Adrienne Marie Brown was in town talking about, blowing my mind with every sentence. I'm like, I understand about 4% of this. Just to humble ourselves, because we have this plant-based message, and it's so powerful, and it's such good stuff, and everybody should have it, and we want to give it to everybody, and we can end up thinking that we have the answers to everything for everyone. And I think it's really important for us to have a diet of humility, to go and talk to community, because we can learn a lot from communities that have been organizing against struggle and for decades, for generations, because the plant-based community also needs to know those things and to be able to organize.
Well, with respect to veganism per se itself, one thing that I have noticed is that a lot of the, and this is a bit of a generalization, a lot of the impetus for veganism within the white community comes from the animal rights direction, and that's a great thing. But in other communities, it comes from a different direction, and particularly in communities of color, the avenue that resonates the most profoundly is usually the issue of health. But I've seen some of my white friends and colleagues tend to judge people of color for that. It's like, well, you don't care about animals. You don't have compassion. And number one, that's so arrogant and privileged and inappropriate on so many levels. But I want to share, do y'all know who David Carter is? He calls himself the 300-pound vegan. He's an ex-football player. Anyway, David has an expression that everybody should commit to memory. He says, animals don't care why you stop eating them as long as you stop. Okay? All right? So that's the bottom line. And the fact of the matter is that, people in economically depressed communities are frequently dealing with issues of just trying to stay alive and just trying to find something to eat, let alone, what's good, what's healthy, da-da-da-da. So they may not have the luxury of more esoteric concerns like, when you're concerned about whether or not your teenage son is going to make it home alive, you have less energy to be concerned about whether or not a cow is going to be mistreated on a farm. It's just that simple. So the point is that we need to, make veganism appeal to a community in whatever form it appeals to them. And the bottom line is that if they embrace it, they're going to stop eating animals. And once they embrace it, if they embrace it for health reasons, you know what? Then that frees them up to see the parallels between the cruelty that's committed on animals to the cruelty that's committed on us as people of color. But the bottom line is, it's not for me to judge why you should stop doing what you do or why being plant-based should appeal to you. I can't tell you, you need to do what I do the way I do it and for the same reasons. You know, people have their own reasons, and we need to allow them to be who they are and to come to this by whatever means they come to it. And to realize that broadening the agenda of veganism means just that, broadening it, and not judging people for coming at it from a different direction than we do. Yes?
So I think that not only just veganism, but our political climate and everything, like if we try to distill it down to the basic problem, sort of you said it and sort of you said it when you were talking about othering, and you were talking about your people. How do we get to a person where there is not my people and your people, it's just we are all, and whether it's, you know, humans or animals or whatever, but we're all one. Like how?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Did everybody hear what she says? She said, how do we get to a place where we don't see each other as the other, but we just kind of see each other as one? Well, actually, I don't know that we should get to that place. And the reason I say that is because I can't tell you the number of times when I've been in medical school, for instance, and my white classmates would say to me, "Oh, Milton, I don't see color. I don't even see you as black. I just see you as a person." And I'm like, well, that's a problem because I am black. And I like being black. And I want you to see my blackness and not be afraid of it and learn to understand it and embrace it. So what we have to do is we have to learn to really understand that diversity is a good thing, and that we have to be willing to be uncomfortable enough to step outside of our boundaries to want to understand another person's differences in their culture and become comfortable with that, so that it's no longer a problem. I'm gonna tell you, I grew up in Oakland, California, in the ghetto in Oakland, California. And when I went to college, I actually commuted to school. I drove up to school, caught the bus, and then came home. So my entire life, up until I got ready to go to medical school, was pretty much built centered around the people that I grew up with, hung out with, went to church with. When I got ready to go to medical school, I realized I was going, and I got accepted into Stanford. I was going into a white environment. I was going around people I didn't know a damn thing about. So I made up my mind that I was going to have a white roommate, because I knew I needed to learn white culture. I needed to learn how to be comfortable around white people. I needed to learn what made white people tick. I needed to learn how to relate to white people. And I did. And I'm good at it. And I'm cool. And I'm comfortable. But I need the same kind of acceptance and sort of thank you, reciprocation. Exactly. So that's what we need. We need to embrace our differences and to not be afraid of them, and to realize that they all have value and beauty, and they bring something different. And that, you know, the reason that we want that diversity is because it's like, the reason it's important to have women on panels is because y'all see the world differently than we do. You know, I mean, anybody that's dealt with men know that we are testosterone poisoned, and we see things a certain way, and, you know, God help us if we don't have women to say, please don't do that. Yeah, so yes, no, I mean, it's like I take my cue from God. He made the world diverse. We know that our diet is the best when it has many different colors and many different foods, and it's the same with people. We got to learn to embrace diversity and not be afraid of it, and to learn to be comfortable with it.
there's another cookie demo in here. And what do you have to say?
Any other comments?
Yeah.
You guys been talking, it's fine.
I think y'all hit it on the head is appreciating diversity and don't be afraid of it. You know, and then exposure is everything. You know, get out of your box. Stop listening to the same music. If you're a hip hop head, that's fine. But listen to some classical music. If you, you know, if you are, you know, if you enjoy one thing, listen to somebody else, you know, or talk to somebody else. Diversity is a beautiful thing, and we have to see it as that. And it needs to be taught from the top down, because the top don't get it. They want one thing, one people, one whatever. Diversity needs to be taught all over. That's the only thing that will, that's the thing that will help. Absolutely.
It starts at home, you know, and if you expose your children and you take them to different places and around different people, and not just in your community, but in other communities and stuff, it starts at home, you know. It's a learned behavior.
Yes, it is.
You know?
Just like if it doesn't, if it goes wrong, like in my life, where I was actually corrected if I spoke with respect to a black person in my life. So, but even that extreme of an existence as a child growing up, if I called Mr. Roosevelt, I would be corrected for that, you know. But I can get here. So even the deepest, darkest recesses of humanity, there's potential growth and light, you know. So I know it's not as crazy as it sounds. It's definitely not a popular phrase at all. You know, there are good people on both sides. They just don't know. The reason I say that is because if I'm around my white friends, there's no doubt they're going to say things that grate me. But at that moment, it's not the moment to address it, because I will lose whatever sway I have over them if I step in the ring and fight right now over that. You know? And so if you heard the conversation, you might think those are terrible human beings. But nah, I promise you they're not. You know, and so it's about me doing my job to help wake them up. Correct. Say, nah, dude, don't say that. Come on, Russ.
You know, Jesus told his disciples, he said, I have many things to tell you, but you can't bear them right now. So even he knew that you have to pick your battles. So, yeah, you're right. Hey, let me ask y'all a question. Y'all know what happens if you raise a child in an environment that's too sterile? And you use hand sanitizer and what happens to them? Their immune system becomes hyper alert and they become allergic to everything. That's why diversity is good. It teaches you to be tolerant and to embrace things. So even our body is trying to tell us, don't just hang around one type of person. It's not good. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's a couple of thoughts for my white brothers and sisters. Things that I am learning that have been hard learning for me. One is, like you talk about, you don't fear other people. What if you do fear other people? That doesn't stop you. You go, like, we all do things that we're scared of. We all do things that make us uncomfortable, and we can do this too. We can go to communities, we can reach out to people, we can have conversations with people in which we are scared because of the media images, and we can also be scared because I'm such a good white person that I want you to know how good a white person I am, and I don't want you to ever correct me for anything because I'm so good. Can't you see I'm on your side? And like that, for me, that's a bigger fear at this point. Like I've gotten over, you know, the media fears of otherness and violence, but I still don't want to feel bad. I don't want someone to say, that was a stupid thing you just said. That was insensitive. That reflects privilege. That reflects, and I have to be okay hearing that. I don't have to agree. I don't have to say, oh, whatever you say, but I have to be able to hear it, and I have to be able to feel bad and be okay with that in the process of growth. So it's not just stop fearing, like, turn off that switch. That it's embracing discomfort, embracing the fear, and I think that's also what we learn when we change our diets, when we stop eating the foods that are so delicious, and we start doing things that are scary, and we stop eating the foods that all the people around us eat. Like this is this intersectionality of let's become authentic human beings and put ourselves at risk for something that matters to us.
Last thing, I relate racism to sexism because we live in a racist society, but we also live in a sexist society. Now, in my family, I had 4 brothers, no sisters, and my mother was a very strong, assertive black woman. And my parents taught us that women were equal to men, and I remember there was one point at which my brothers and I each had to take a week washing dishes, and my best friend, Icky Barber, had sisters, and in his house, the girls had to do all the kitchen work. And I remember one night, it was my turn to wash dishes, and I said, I wish I had some sisters so I didn't have to wash dishes. And my father and my mother said in unison, nope, if you have sisters, you still have to wash dishes. And so I say that to say that we were brought up believing that there were no differences between men and women in terms of worth and self-respect. So I grew up thinking I wasn't sexist until I started dating. And women had to open my eyes to the fact that while, yes, I believed that men and women were equal, and no, I didn't believe that men were inherently superior, I still had a lot of sexist notions. And I still had a lot of shit that I had to work through with respect to my attitude towards women. And so we all have to understand that you are probably not racist, but you still have racist ideas that have been instilled in you by this society, and you have to work through that. And like Howard said, that when someone points that out, they're not saying you're a bad or terrible person. They're just telling you got shit you got to work through. And they may be right, or they may even be wrong, or they may only be partially right. But you owe it to them to think about what they're saying and to examine yourself and see if there's some truth to what they're saying and to make yourself a better person. That's what we all have to work on and what we all have to do. Any other comments? Yes, in the back.
Well, yeah, your comments in yesterday. Like the statement you said earlier, just 2 things. Like, it just reminded me of a situation between one conversation I had with my mother, where like I'm left-handed and I have like a disability where I don't quite have complete motor control of my right arm. And I remember once my mother was just trying to prepare food for herself with appliances that I had, and she couldn't use them because they were left-handed. She got really, really like angry, and I had to actually in that moment explain to my mother her social privilege of being a right-handed person, how everything in the world is like set up to like work for her and to work against me as like a left-handed person who is not entirely able-bodied. And I just think it's funny because I think it's a good reminder of just like you gotta be, you can't be blind to all these things or forced blindness. There are always going to be differences, different languages, people being different races, religious, nationality, backgrounds, all that. You just gotta be open to like learning in all times. And then another thing, when I came in, you were talking about like Jill Stein and like your frustration, which I share, of people sort of like not voting in their immediate interests. But I also kind of felt like that kind of statement is sort of like incomplete, because we can't just be like defeatist and saying, oh, we have to vote the lesser of 2 evils, because also like we can't just think about like candidates, and this will be true in the upcoming election. because it's not just like the people who are sitting in the chairs, but it's sort of like the issues that I feel you've got to focus on. Like if you care about the environment, then if we keep Captain Planet buildings like in charge of everything, that would be worse than even if you have like filthy neoliberals. Like you can hold their feet to the fire and say, don't melt the planet. Like we'll have an easier chance. Like if we can get the best person possible, even if it's not an ideal person. That's what I'm saying.
That's what being strategic is all about. Absolutely. And if you guys don't remember anything from this meeting, please remember that Jill Stein is an election cicada. She surfaces every 4 years, collects her money, and then goes underground. All right, thank you.
So on a slightly more serious note, being someone that's on social media as often as I am, and seeing what's happened with something like the Impossible Burger, right? Like what vitriol that is going on against people who are eating the Impossible Burger at Burger King and supporting the fact that plant-based isn't Burger King, people. Who knew? Who knew? The people, right? And who knew? Like, you see, Dr. Betty, who's been vegan for 40 years, who was drinking probably freaking powdered soy milk because that's all there was 40 years ago outside of vegetables and fruits that are vegan, obviously. No one's never not eaten vegan. As we said, you've eaten an apple, you've eaten a banana. It's vegan. So let's come back with people who say that. But can we stop? Don't police me on what I eat. And I won't police you on what you eat. If you ask me, I'll tell you how I feel. That's it. But just because I posted something on VegFest, it doesn't mean I'm opening up the floodgates for people to be harassed and criticized and abused because of their choices. I personally feel we need to spend money where there's plant-based vegan stuff because the money is what's making it happen. It's not their morals and values. It's because they're making money. And if we keep making them money, they will keep making us vegan stuff. And that's it. Like Bowsie's out there, the food truck, they're not vegan. They go vegan for the day. But I've had people come up to me and say, you know what they serve in their menu, their regular menu? Yeah. I'm not going to buy from them. And I say, yes, you should, because if you spend money and they see they can make money, maybe they'll take that off their menu in the future. Your money speaks volumes. Your words speak volumes. Please stop being keyboard warriors. I deal with a lot of them, right? If you can't say it to me in person, don't put it on the keyboard. Because if you say it to me in person, I will come back at you. Okay? And with that, we have to clean up for a cooking demo. But thank you. We're going to do this.